Welcome back, everyone, for another edition of the Bush League Huddle. It's draft week, boys. How are we doing?
Finally.
I'm sick of it.
Finally.
I'm still sick of it.
No, I'm not. I'm finally excited. Yeah, because I'm excited because I'm sick of it too. But I'm happy we're here. Finally.
You see a different link every day, and that's your new favorite guy that the Giants are taking.
It's just
you're giddy about every rumor.
I had a conversation.
Before, a month ago was Odunze you wanted. Then you wanted Neighbors. Then you wanted McCarthy. Today you wanted Drake Day.
Knicks.
I never wanted McCarthy. No, I never wanted McCarthy. Actually, I had a very nice conversation with Roger the other day. And I said, if we're not getting one of the top 3 QBs, I want any of the top 3 wide receivers. He was like, that makes sense. I don't want McCarthy. I don't want McCarthy.
Sounds like a logical reasoning that most fans would have in terms of being a top 6 in the draft. I have a question for you guys. Did you guys notice? Do you guys notice all like the sexual innuendo when the way they talk about draft prospects, like the word finish, like, oh yeah, the defensive line, and like he finished really well. The boom bust, like am I the only one?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, I guess you're saying it now. It's like it's a little bit more apparent. But one
guy said, like, I was listening to a podcast today, and one dude was like, "Oh yeah, he finishes really well. He finishes really well. Like, he's a great finisher. You know, he has boom bust potential. He's a butt." I'm like, oh my god! Like, can they use other denominators for these things?
We all know where Raj's mind goes. Okay. Maybe we'll pivot on that.
What are you gonna say, Pat? What are you gonna say?
It just brings me.
Do we want to cut? Do we want to cut this?
No. We're continuing going because I was gonna.
Sure?
So we all
no cutting.
We all like Charles Barkley, right? We all know who he is, obviously, and the TNT panel and all that stuff. There was this brings up the memory of it. Barkley was talking about a guy who was like banging a guy in the defense and this and that, and Shaq was like bent over laughing. So that just made me think of that, and obviously,
Charles Barkley, national treasure.
Yeah, 100%.
National treasure.
He really loved he loves eclipses, apparently.
Oh man, did that kill me? I was honestly floored to the ground when he said that. Came back on the show to say those guys are fucking losers. It hit so well.
So Charles Barkley in general has a lot of very controversial takes, but it doesn't matter because he's Charles Barkley. And he has one about women in San Antonio. Women said how they're so ugly and they're fat and everything. Oh, I was dying. What did he say about this is going to be a funny hot topic.
No, let's not go there.
Like, why are women in the stove? Why are women?
No. Maybe that's where we'll really turn to. We'll pivot now.
We're
Mother's
3 minutes in and we are
soon,
off the rails, ladies and gentlemen.
We will take that as
Mother's
a pivot.
Day soon. Let's not
pivot. Raj doesn't like Friends, so maybe we won't. We'll keep the Friends references to ourselves. Anyways, guys, as I mentioned, it's draft week. I know a lot of people are fed up of seeing all these mock drafts. They just want it to be done. I think me and Raj included. Fab is looking at me. So we decided to do a little mailbag episode. We asked you guys to send in your questions, and they could be on the show. So without further ado, we're going to start diving into all your questions. I want to first say thank you to everyone who took the time to do so. I think it's going to be a regular occurrence every so often. Get a mailbag going, and just so everyone knows, it doesn't have to be questions related to fantasy football or football on the whole. We got some actually questions related to other stuff as well. So it could be really ask us anything going forward. So again, thanks guys, and we'll dive right in here with our first question. So at Evizzle wrote to us and he said, "Why do people in 1 QB leagues feel superior to those in 2 QB leagues?" How about Fab? What do you think?
I think it's a lack of knowledge. I think that people in 1 QB leagues don't know the fun that they're missing out on in 2 QB leagues. And I myself used to be a non-believer as well. I couldn't really understand all the hype about 2 QBs. And I was like, and then you sort of start playing it and you're realizing how much fun it is. And then when you go to a league where it's 1 QB, it's like, it's like there's something missing, there's like that little bit of excitement that's not there. Those extra 25, 30, maybe 40 points a week that you're not getting. There's that extra stack that you could have that you're not getting because you want to be, put your head in the sand, right? And not think about how having two QBs can be so much more fun. I think it's becoming a little bit more popular now, more super flex than two QBs, and it's really just introducing a lot of people into the notion of having to manage a roster with multiple quarterbacks, having to manage a draft and looking for different scenarios and seeing how, hey, there might be some value in Baker Mayfield now than there was before, when in a one QB league he would never be looked at, right? So it really opens up the perspective. I feel like for a lot of fantasy players, when you compare two QBs to one, I mean, do they feel superior? Sure, but I think it only feels superior because they don't know what they're missing out on, type thing. You know what I mean? So maybe ignorance is bliss for one QB leagues. Maybe.
Yeah, I think you kind of said it all right there. I had all my points written down. It's more people think it's harder, so they don't like it as much. You have to really focus on QB, whereas a lot of these leagues, these one QB leagues, are some people that will grab a top guy in the 11th round, and he doesn't have to. You know, it's look, it's completely different strategy, right? Like you're completely
100%.
it's any mock draft that you do, it does not work with our two QB leagues because you got to take into account that these QBs um, score points and you need these guys, and there's only so many of them when you start in a two QB league. So I think people just don't like the fact that it's harder, I guess. And but look, I came into two QB leagues. It was obviously difficult because I was doing mock drafts with one QB leagues, but I feel like I'll never look back. Like I think two QB leagues now is like for me is the standard, and I hate playing in one QB leagues.
I think it doesn't. I think people see it like, oh, it doesn't resemble real football because like real football, you have one QB, you have two running backs, three wide receivers, one tight end. But I think what I realized is joining a two QB league, it mimics real football by putting more value into the QB position because you have your top five, your top 10. Those are typically going to be your QB1s. Then you have your rest of the group, like your 11 to 20, that are your QB2s, and you have to factor in backups as well. So it almost does the reverse, where it actually increases the value of QBs. And Fab and I are in a same league together, not just the Bush League, but also another league where it's a one QB league. And I'm going to test to see if people in that league are listening to our podcast. But I think Fab and I will fully agree that our two QB league is way funner.
Yeah,
Like
no,
it's
it's
like
not even. It's.
it's like, it's like night and day.
I feel bad. I feel bad because I'm the commissioner in that
Folks
league,
on
right?
yeah, you are. And so folks on the league, you are warned. You are on blast. We need to make our league better in that one. But for me, the two QB league thing is has been a huge success in the 8 years I've been in it so far.
Well, I hope Evizel, we answered your question. Let's get the next question here, guys, from at junior_08. Brock Purdy, first full season as a starting QB. Where does he rank in fantasy QBs? So this, interestingly enough, we actually spoke about this off camera a few days ago, and Raj brought it to my attention that he did, in fact, finish sixth last year and the year before as well. Um, Look, I think Brock Purdy in that offense is always going to have potential to be great in a top 10 fantasy QB, even look pushing towards the top five. One thing that we have to remember, though, when going and drafting Brock Purdy is that you had, a guy like Anthony Richardson who wasn't there most of the year. You have um, Burrow who wasn't there much of the year. You had Lamar Jackson who had an off year fantasy wise. So these are like all factors that may push him towards the end of the top 10, but I think realistically you should feel confident drafting Brock Purdy as your QB1, definitely top 10 guy. And look, he does stay healthy, right? So I think that gives you bonus points as well.
Yeah, so I gave that stat. So I think just to clarify, 365 fantasy points in 2023. That was six. That number would have also placed him sixth in
Oh, the year
2020.
prior. Right,
Yeah,
right,
he had, like, I think that was the year he had like the shortened season.
right.
Uh, for me, I think it's a low risk, high reward. It's funny though. ESPN Yahoo combined ADP has Purdy 13th. I can't believe this. They have him below guys like Anthony Richardson, Justin Fields, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, and Kyler Murray.
Justin Fields.
Yeah,
Even
Justin
Justin
Fields.
Fields. I don't get it.
That's weird.
Like this year?
Yeah, this year. Yeah,
Yeah,
nuts.
that
And if
must
you
be.
if you think about it, like, so the way I looked at this question was like, what are the differentiators for me when I think of like a QB? Let me take a step back. For me, when I'm drafting QB, it's all about how do I reduce risk and how do I make sure that I don't have to stress about it. Because I had like Goff and Derek Carr last year. Goff was pretty good, but Carr was super stressful, right?
You want a
So
floor.
like exactly. So and for me, that's how good are you on third downs? How good are you in the red zone? And how good are you under pressure? Third downs, the Niners had the least amount of third down attempts. And on second down, Purdy had a 124 QB rating, 8.4 yards per attempt, 70% completion. Red zone, 109 QB rating, 19 TDs, 2 picks. That's like best in the league. Under pressure, 1,500 yards, 11 TDs, 7 INTs, 53% completion. That's like Mahomes level. So like the concept of him being a game manager when he also had the most completed air yards in the league last year is like, it's ridiculous. I think that needs to go away. He's an elite QB right now. Elite fantasy QB right now. I wouldn't take him over the Burrows. I wouldn't take him over Jordan Love either, CJ Stroud. But from a fantasy perspective, you could do. I'm not even gonna say you could do worse. He is a QB1 without a doubt. The only risks, and I'll end with that, is what happens with Ayuk, and do we see some regression with CMC? Like, is CMC going to get potentially injured? Like, we know how he is with heavy workloads. He had a massive workload last year. Do they reduce that? Does that impact Purdy a bit? But otherwise, super low risk, as you said, Knack.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's definitely low risk, definitely high return. You love the fact that he's in that offense. And I know that a lot of people have been referring to him as a game manager, but quite frankly, that term to me doesn't really mean anything. When you're managing the San Francisco 49ers game, like, good, I want him to be a game manager because they run that offense very well and very effective. The Ayuk thing does bother me, but Raj, you numbered off a few quarterbacks over there that I wouldn't have an issue maybe taking before Purdy. Like, I'm just looking at the rankings too now. Like, Jordan Love is surging. Kyler Murray is back and going to have a full slate of games ahead of him. Plus, you would assume also he's going to have Marvin Harrison Jr. as well to throw to,
Yeah.
which is going to be huge.
You're assuming a full slate of games.
Listen, but fantasy, we're talking about elite. We're talking about fantasy quarterbacks, QB1, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy. Like, you can make the argument for either one or the other. It's a bit of a coin toss in my opinion, but I think Kyler Murray might have a higher upside, whereas Brock Purdy has a higher floor. So it depends on, I guess, where your risk lies and how high do you need to hit a home run or not.
What do you always tell? What do you always tell us, Fab? The best stability is
availability, and I know, but I can't play both sides of my own argument. I agree. If I'm drafting tomorrow, I am taking Brock Purdy over Kyler Murray. I am taking Brock Purdy over Kyler Murray because I want my quarterback to start all 16 games, 100%. However, Kyler, that's what I meant. But at the same time, Kyler Murray, he might play 16. Kyler Murray, like, he does offer you a little bit more interest when it comes to having a higher ceiling. Anthony Richardson, yeah, he's ranked really uncomfortably high for me. I know that in the 3.5 games that he played, if you extrapolate that over the course of a full season, it's like QB3, which is nice, but it's 3.5 games, like, and the way that he plays leads up for a lot of injuries. So that really is concerning to me. But, and Mac brought up Joe Burrow, which I thought was interesting. I see Brock Purdy as a low end QB1, but definitely firmly within the conversation of a QB1. But yeah, Jordan Love, I like a lot too. He's in like the QB 8 to 9 range for me of where I'm drafting. and I'm comfortable with that. And he might give you QB6
Do you like
upside.
him over Stafford?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. But the thing is,
Yeah.
have we seen the best season of Brock Purdy? And that's not to say it's a bad thing. It's just like, can it get better than that? And already it's very good. He finished QB6 last year. I don't want to shit on the guy. It's a great season for a guy who's picked last in drafts, like ever.
I
So
think, look, I don't think he necessarily has to be better. If he could potentially keep this pace
yeah,
and continue at this pace and finishing in the top 10, then, like I said, I have no problem drafting Brock Purdy exactly where he should be. Even if I have the chance, if he's there, the 10th QB off the board, like I'm gonna grab him.
oh, that's money though. That's money.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's money.
yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on. We have a question here from at Burris. What QB should be taken before Gibbs slash Bijan in 2 QB leagues, basically with a 0 running back strategy? Raj, what do you think?
So I'm kind of the wrong person to answer this question because I would take Gibbs and Bijan. I'm
That's
the
why I
type
wanted to ask you.
I'm the type that's going to draft a running back or a wide receiver in my first 2, even 3, 4 picks. But I think we can have like a whole other discussion on draft strategy. It has to be Allen. It has to be Allen for sure, like no doubt about it. And I have some reservation about Hurts because of no Jason Kelsey. I don't know what's happening with that offense. I think it's Kellen Moore who's the new OC. That offense looked really, really putrid at the end of the
Yeah.
year, and I'm just not super convinced about him as a passer. The rushing upside obviously is there, but you have to think that if they picked up Saquon Barkley, that they're looking to hand the ball off more so than having Jalen do the tush pushes, and I think defenses are going to key in on it. So if maybe I'll just end with like Lamar Jackson obviously always is a possibility. I guess the only other one could be Kyler Murray because of the amazing rushing upside. But if you're gonna pick a QB over 2 potential legitimate RB1s, like high RB1s, they have to have rushing potential.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Obviously, Allen, everyone I think is going to be in agreement with that. I think Josh Allen speaks for itself. I had Mahomes because he had that down year last year, fantasy wise. I think it probably gets better this year. And then I had fringe CJ Stroud just because I feel like, man, like that offense is like, look, I've said it before. There's a chance it could regress, but I think like the pieces they put around him, I think it's just going to get better. And then adding Diggs just like adds another element. Um, but yeah, look, zero running back strategy. It definitely works if you could grab a nice QB and an elite wide receiver, right? Like you got to be able to pair it. It's not just which QBs would you draft. Your second pick has to be money also. Kind of similar to look what I had. I had the third pick this year. I picked Allen and then um, Lamb on the turn. So I had 2 elite people at that position where I could bypass having that running back. But it's going to really depend on your second pick, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really have anything else much to add in conjunction to that. I mean, I would also probably take Joe Burrow ahead of those guys. I mean, we talk about 2 QB leagues in the league that we're in and how high they are valued. In the first round, I want to leave with like one of the top quarterbacks if possible. And then after that, I think I'm going with wide receiver. I'm not even going running back. I really like the 0 RB strategy this year more than past years. I just think there's a lot of upside of a lot of running backs in different teams that might not necessarily be getting looks, but will get opportunities. You look at the Devin Singletaries with New York. You look at James Conner with Arizona. Like those are guys that are going to give you yards and opportunities each and every single week. And when you're looking at a PPR league, like I want wide receivers. And like wide receivers are really stacked this year. And there's a lot of options everywhere. So I might be leaning more towards 0 RB strategy. So I'm going to have a lot of QBs and even wide receivers taken before running backs.
Don't you? I just don't like the stress of like having
But
having like a running backs
Guys,
off like the free agency
Kyron
keeps, you know.
Williams,
picked
Kyron
Like,
my
Williams.
first.
Sorry, Nat, go ahead.
I know, but
Well, I picked my first running back last year. I picked in the 6th round, and his name was Cam Akers. That was my first running back
Yeah, there you
taken
go.
off the board.
Yeah,
I won the league.
yeah. Kyron Williams was
don't remind
was
me.
a very
Thanks for reminding me.
expensive fab pickup, but worth every penny, and he killed it. He killed it
Yes.
for like the entirety of the season.
Yes.
And he was, I think
Yes.
he was second behind only CMC for points per game. Like, I'm not saying that's going to happen every single year to anybody, but the opportunity is there. I feel like that's less. I feel like that's less of, there's less of a chance of that happening with wide receivers. Maybe this year with rookies is a different story because there's so many rookies and there's going to be a lot of wide receiver depth and there's going to be opportunities for a lot of different players elsewhere. But I just feel like the valuing of running backs has decreased a little bit in real life football and also maybe in fantasy too. Apart from the guys like CMC, apart from the guys like Breece Hall and even Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan, and even Gibbs has been mocked as like a top 5 running back. I think it's possible. I think it's a little bit too rich for my blood personally. I like him, but he still shares a backfield with a very capable, still young running back too, in David Montgomery. So it's not as if like
More injury prone.
Still, but like, you know, the guy put up numbers last year. And even Jahmyr Gibbs was also missed a few games, if I'm not mistaken. So like there's a lot of
and he's slight.
He's slight as well, yeah. So I think, listen, they probably see Jahmyr Gibbs as more as of an Alvin Kamara role, but I mean that's also a different conversation. I don't know. The zero RB strategy to me this year looks very appealing, especially because I want 2 quarterbacks. I want my quarterbacks.
Well, I guess we'll wait and see in a few months. We got a question here from at Robbie Scalise. Are you going to incorporate a 3-team parlay / props segment? So yeah, this is going to be something that's part of the pod, more obviously towards the start of the season. We might get into some futures bet just before, go into some of those, and then maybe we haven't decided the segment part of it, but maybe towards the end of the show we'll probably rattle off some parlays that we think that we like for that particular week.
You know, speaking of futures bets, have you guys saw the odds change for JJ McCarthy going 2nd overall? Went from plus 2,000 to plus 1,100. Vegas changed it. Guys, this isn't me. This is Vegas. I'm just bringing it to your attention. Don't shoot the messenger.
What's that Matthew McConaughey quote? What's that Matthew McConaughey quote where they keep reeling me back in? That's you.
What?
No, but just in terms of like
what I said, 2nd overall. I mean. I'm not talking about JJ McCarthy going to the Giants. What's all this animosity, guys? Jesus.
You just get caught on the mock drafts.
Who's getting caught up in the getting caught up in the mock drafts? I'm just simply bridging the gap between Robbie Scalia's question and our podcast. That's all. I don't see why these dots can't be connected, guys. Come on.
We got a question here from Frank Gooch. That's my wife's cousin. Are the Eagles the most complete team in the NFL? Typical question coming from an Eagles fan.
He's a Leafs fan, right? He's a Leafs fan too.
He's also a Leafs fan. Yes, he's also a Leafs fan.
Go Leafs, go!
Poor guy.
What's the score? I think it was 2-1 last time.
It doesn't matter. It's 0-4 in the series, most likely, even though they're 2 games in, so it's fine.
What do you think, Fab?
I think
the most
Eagles
complete team in the league. I gotta tell you right now, Frank, you have 2 biased opinions to my left and my right because they're both Giants fans.
It look horrible.
I think their offense is very good. I think their offense obviously got a boost with Saquon being there. I think it's going to alleviate a lot of pressure off of Jalen Hurts. I'm not convinced about him as a thrower, but still as a quarterback and as a player, like he's a very good quarterback. He's very capable. Their defense is scary. It's still very good, their defense. Who did they add in the offseason? They added, hold on a second. I have the guys.
Yeah, they added some nice pieces on defense. Gardner Johnson came back.
Yeah, Gardner Johnson and Bryce Huff. Those are huge guys that they added.
They also took a flyer on Devin White, who had like a bad year
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
having change in scenery for
yes,
him might do him
Yeah.
good too.
yes.
The defense needed to be revamped, and I think they
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah, and they're well managed team. Period. Like there's depth across all levels. They're always going to be a contending team. Are they the most complete team in the NFL? If they're not the most complete team, they're not far from it. I always talk about the Niners are a super complete team, but even though they never they never make it the whole way, and I guess. But apart from that, I think the Eagles are a very complete team, and this is it. You're not going to get any more flowers from me, Gooch. I don't know who you are, but it's enough now.
Look, I think Fab Raj mentioned it before. The loss of Kelsey is going to hurt. That's for sure. I think it's Cam Jurgens who's taking his spot. So, uh, what's that going to do to their tush push? Who knows? But look, their weapons on offense are solid, right? You've got AJ Brown, you've got what's his name on the outside, just got signed.
Devontae, Slim
Devontae,
Reaper,
that's it, the Slim Reaper. You
Slim
got
Reaper.
Saquon,
He's at 190 pounds apparently.
wet. Um, And then look, you have a new OC that obviously didn't work last year, so they brought in Kellen Moore, and hopefully that revamps them. But I guess look, on paper, you could probably say they're one of the more complete teams in the league.
Question time. Well, you guys don't have to answer, but are we sure Jalen Hurts is a top 12 QB? Are we sure
Fantasy
Nick
or real
Sirianni is a good
life?
coach?
Fantasy or real life?
No, real life. This is a real life question, right?
Not for me. It's not.
More like a real life football question. Like,
It's
I don't.
it's
I mean,
tough.
if he's top
It's
12,
both.
he's 12. Like he's 12, 13, 11, 12, 13 if he's top 12. Yeah.
They were more rhetorical questions, but I appreciate you guys still answering.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, it's all good. No, but
I'll just go fuck myself.
Nick Sirianni. Yes, please do. Nick Sirianni. The Nick Sirianni stuff was just like the big Dom. That was just a joke. Like, and the Eagles owner being so he. I think Sirianni met with the Eagles owner and was telling him like blah blah
This was
blah,
the
and
best.
then he was like, the Eagles owner was like, so then what do you do if you're gonna be CEO coach or whatever? It's like, what do you do?
You don't call the plays. You don't call the offense.
Yeah, you
you
don't call the plays,
defense.
right?
What do you do?
Yeah. So I think Bryce Huff is good. CJ, GJ, that's fine. But they didn't fix the main issue, which I think they'll do in the draft. But the secondary, more so the cornerbacks, are still Darius Slay and James Bradbury, who are up there in age, who were awful last year.
Yeah.
And the secondary was
Especially
amazing
down the
this year.
stretch.
Yeah.
It was so bad. The tackling was so bad. I think there's bad vibes with the Eagles, like everything with the coaching and the last few games. So I still think them and the Cowboys are top two in that division, but I'd almost venture saying the Commanders made more impressive moves in the offseason than anyone in that division, along with the Giants, but the Commanders, I would say, even made more moves than the Eagles.
I agree. The Commanders quietly made a lot of very, very key moves. You're right about that. I don't think it's getting the love that they deserve, because it's whatever quarterback they do end up drafting is going into a pretty decent spot over there where they're going to be very well insulated with a lot of protection, a lot of weapons. They did do a lot of good moves in there. The Giants can finish fourth in the division next year easily. Like everyone else got better except for us, mind you. Dallas isn't ever running back.
No, the Cowboys.
It's very
Did they bring
ugly.
back Zeke?
They did not.
Was that a thing?
They signed like a long snap.
No,
They signed a long
they didn't
snap.
bring back.
No, he's unsigned, I believe.
Yeah, he is unsigned.
They signed a long snap.
Gotta love Jerry.
Let's move on here, guys. I've got a question from TSags83. Is Michael Penix at 13 too rich for the Raiders, considering he might be an instant QB upgrade? I think we'll let our Penix man answer this one.
Wow. Wow.
Big Penix energy.
Big
Just before
Penix energy.
just before I do that, I just want to just quickly shout out Junior and T Sags from the Partial Breakaway podcast with those two questions, and they've been doing great stuff on the hockey side. Penix at 13. So I listed realistic teams that could maybe take Penix after 13. New Orleans Saints at 14. So I don't think it's a first rounder, but just for argument's sake, Saints at 14, Seahawks at 16, bring him back to the Pacific Northwest where he played in Seattle. The Rams, Matthew Stafford's getting up there in age. The Dolphins, in case Tua, they don't want to resign him. Then it goes into the second round where the Patriots are at 34. The Titans are at 38, just in case they want insurance for Levis. 43 for the Falcons, and the Raiders at 44. And I was listening to a podcast, I think it was one on The Athletic, who or maybe it was during the Pat McAfee, but someone I feel was saying that they wouldn't be surprised if all five of the 6 QBs go in the first round.
Schefter on McAfee.
It was Schefter on McAfee. Yeah, exactly. So I think 13 is a bit rich, but like if they really like him, I could see a team moving up into the late portion of the first. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots, if for some reason they say, hey, they don't want to go QB, they want to go Marvin Harrison Jr., which I don't think will happen. That could be it. But hard question to answer. I think 13 is rich, but if they like him, go for it. I think he's a perfect Raider.
That's where my mind was going. Is it depends on who it's rich for, right? Like it depends everyone's grade, right? Like for some teams, they picture him or they value him at a second round grade. So it would definitely be too rich. Maybe a team like the Raiders value him. You know, there's some people are saying that, oh, he's the second best QB in the draft. You know, you've been hearing that. And you know, maybe for the Raiders, that's what they see. And they're like, hey, if he's going to fall into my lap at 13, I'll more than gladly take it. Personally, I think it's a great fit with the Raiders. I think he would be a really great fit over there. I know we spoke about Seattle too, which I thought was would be a great fit for Penix as well. Maybe a year behind Geno. But yeah, like you said, tough question to answer. But like I wouldn't be surprised to see him go, to see all these QBs go pretty high because people are just going to get desperate, right?
They have Howell. I just remembered Seattle. They traded for Howell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that makes it a bit tough.
I mean, I agree. He's definitely too rich at 13. Also, you kind of wonder, he's older than the other quarterbacks that are being drafted, so you kind of have to ask yourself, like, will he be able to further develop into an NFL quarterback? Like, has he plateaued, so to speak? Can he develop any further and be an even more effective quarterback for the NFL? So I think that's a question that whoever is drafting is going to have to be asking. I like him, though, all that being said. But he doesn't have a first-round grade, so for him to go 13 is very, very high in my opinion. I like where you were talking about, Roger, him going to New England at 34. It's at the top of the second round. That makes sense. But, again, I don't see them passing on a Daniels or a May, just because those types of quarterbacks don't come around that often. Yeah, 13 is too rich, though. And plus, still got Gardner Minshew, man. You got Minshew mania. You can still sling it.
Again with this Minshew.
I was just looking at previous drafts. Man, Josh Rosen was 10th overall. Dwayne Haskins, I feel like we mentioned him often. Rest in peace. 15th overall in 2019.
See, that's why I'm excited
look at
about
2021. Just look at the 2021. Like, look no further. They're all top round picks. I just saw the 4 of the top 15 picks have been traded before 2024, and they got drafted in 2021.
It's hard to play this game. Like, for sure, Michael Penix is gonna be better than Mac Jones, but like,
no, well, you can't. Yeah,
it's hard to play that game. Right? It's hard to play that game.
Yes. You got to look at commonalities.
He's gonna be better. Kenny Pickett for sure, but
yeah,
it's not very difficult.
But didn't Mac Jones like rise up the drafts and rise up the mock drafts like in the rankings in the last like few months as well? So there's been a lot of comparisons of him to JJ McCarthy.
There was a point where he was.
Well, Zach Wilson did the same thing.
Zach
Remember
Wilson, same
that?
thing
Like
too.
he shot out from his combine. Everyone
Yeah.
Yeah.
saw him throw a football far, and they were like, "Oh my
Well,
god, we got to
Anthony
take him."
Richardson shot up from his combine too. The guy's only played 3 games, like we mentioned, right? But like he was nowhere near on the radar, and then he went super high. He went fourth. He went fourth last year, which
Yeah,
is for
yeah,
a guy that
totally.
wasn't even thought about to go that. Which is again, we're talking about a lot of scenarios like that this year as well. So it's
It's teams that get, but teams also get desperate, right? Like I was
for
just
sure.
mentioning, like
Yeah.
there's QBs that are ranked there, and like you're picking fourth, and like, hey, it may have been too rich, but hey, we need a guy. This is the rest of the draft doesn't have any of these guys, and we don't want to be picking this high next year. Let's go and do it. So
Mhm.
that's why I say for Penix, like, yeah, for sure it could be high at 13, but that's your guy,
Yeah.
and that's the last one left.
Yeah.
Like who
It's
knows, man? Like if they need a guy, maybe you don't
it,
want to wait till next year. And everyone keeps saying that next year's prospect pool is not great. Like again, we hate when we see stuff like that, but I mean, if that's what the talent is saying, that's why people maybe tend to, force their hand.
Yeah. Plus, a lot of things can
Like
change
look,
in a
the
year.
start.
Steelers did it. The Steelers did it. They took Pickett, first QB off the board in 2020, 2021
Too.
or 2022. Excuse me,
2022.
2022. 2022. They took him at 20. But who else went in that draft too? Like the draft was
Brock
garbage
Purdy.
for QB. Well, Brock Purdy. Okay, well, Mr. Irrelevant, but no one had that, right? It was the last pick in the draft, so that class was terrible. And they said, oh, you know what? Well, we need a quarterback. We're going to take him at 20.
No, that class was terrible. The 2020 class was a bomb fucking class. Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Love, Hurts, like that was a bomb fucking class.
Yeah, yeah,
Ben
that doesn't happen often.
Ben DiNucci.
Yeah, 7th round.
Ben DiNucci.
I'm just
He's
making
gonna,
sure
he's
you
gonna
guys
push the start for the Broncos.
just just making sure you guys are still paying attention. Oh, it's Broncos. Those uniforms are just
Oh my god,
dog
yeah.
shit.
Sidebar. Those are.
No, but
I really do not like
wasn't the
them at
blue one a
all.
nice one? Like the throwback one was decent, but the other ones that they're gonna have in the regular games are garbage. But the throwback one was nice. Like it was an alternate jersey. I
Of
agree.
course, the throwback is like the Orange Crush.
Yeah,
That's
100%.
like,
Yes.
yeah, it's amazing.
Daniel
I'm
Jones.
moving along here. Oh, Fab. We've got a question from your love interest.
Well, she's not an
Miss
interest.
Steffi.
It's confirmed. There's no interest.
It's yes, it is confirmed. It is confirmed. You're right. You're right. She says, "Are running backs becoming less and less valuable? And if so, why?"
My word, Stephanie Raculia. What an astute question. Sounds like you've been paying attention to your very intelligent boyfriend. Yeah, are running backs becoming less and less relevant, and if so, why? I mean, you've been seeing. We mentioned this earlier in the pod, just in this episode. You've been seeing the zero RB strategy come up a lot more often. You've also been seeing a less of a reliance towards the bell cow running back in real NFL. You look back at historical fantasy drafts, let's say 10 or 15 years ago, and you have like the top like 9 picks were all running backs, and it was all guys that commanded their backfield. They weren't sharing touches, they weren't handing it off to anybody. Like it was just one guy, RB1, that's it. It's just like the NFL evolves, so does fantasy football. And with that, you're seeing less and less of those true running backs that just, have complete control of their backfield. Like, Christian McCaffrey, like Breece Hall, probably Kyron Williams this year, Bijan Robinson too. Like you're not going to get too many after that. And because of that, it does make the person who's drafting ask themselves, like, is this really the best? Oh, Josh Jacobs was Saquon Barkley. Okay, so now I'm rounding up to about 6. Like it does make you kind of think that there's less of an emphasis necessarily on running backs, especially from a fantasy perspective. Because if you're talking about PPR, you want guys that can catch the ball, right? Like Gus the Bus is probably going to command that backfield, assuming that they don't draft a running back, the Los Angeles Chargers. So he's going to be commanding that backfield. However,
They just signed Dobbins.
yeah, that's true. They did send out, but that was like after he visited every single NFL team 7 times or something. Like, so I don't know if it was I'm just saying, like, I'm rooting for the guy. It's just I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have fantasy wise. But Like, so just go
He
back
got
to
the
that.
same. He got the same Achilles treatment as Rogers. Just
So,
FYI.
okay.
That's to mean something.
That means that he can
Yeah.
probably run for 4,000 yards. That's what that means.
Look, I think you're absolutely right. That was my point too. Is that there's less bell cow players, running backs in the league now, right? There's a lot of teams now that have shifted to going to a two back strategy. Keep them, keep the wear and tear off for playoff time and when it matters most. So yes, if you're not getting that bell cow, the CMCs, like you said, the Brees Hall. Um, but if I have to play devil's advocate on that point, there's a lot more this year that switched hands. Like I like Saquon Barkley a lot more with the Eagles, right? I like Josh Jacobs with I'd mentioned him before with the Packers. So like you said, you started naming them because I was more on that zero running back strategy. But as you start naming them, you start like, oh wait a second, now there's 8 this year. Oh, there's 7, there's 9 this year that you could the kind of take that are pretty good. So I think last year's zero running back strategy worked a little bit better. This year, there's going to be some beast guys, I think, available. So you'll have to again, depending on what strategy you go to. I think this year, because of all the shuffling of the running backs, they made him a little bit more valuable than maybe some of the past few years, where it's like CMC and one other guy, and then like there's a drop off, right? Like the Eckler 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's like a last year after the first 3 or 4, there was a huge drop off in talent where you could wait, right? So I don't know. We'll see what happens this year, but there was the last couple of years where they were valued less,
Yeah.
or that zero running back strategy worked.
It's good points. Very good points.
I think the best way to look at it is like the last running back to get inducted into the Hall of Fame was in 2017. And I think LT retired in like 2011, 2012.
Has to be 5 years, right? If he was first
5
ballot.
years, exactly. And I think the next one who comes even close, I believe, would be Derrick Henry. And then after that,
AP?
it's
AP.
oh yeah, AP.
Yeah,
I'm
Adrian Pearson.
surprised. Oh yeah, because AP had those like few years where he came back.
Yeah.
My point being is that I think for the top 5 to 8 who are considered elite, they are still difference makers. But after that, everyone else, they're just plugging in a running back. And we see that in where they're drafted. Most of them, very few of them are in the first round. I mean, notwithstanding Bijan Robinson, CMC. But yeah, I think there's definitely less value. But I think it shows those like kind of unicorns, the ones who can do running, receiving, pass blocking, obviously running. They become way more important. Cam Newton was saying on his podcast that he thinks that CMC would be a top 10 receiver if he just focused on receiving. True or not, not here to debate that,
Yeah.
but I think that shows how valuable he is. And there's very few players who you could say, hey, very few running backs who you could say, hey, let's plug them into another position, and we could even have a worthwhile discussion that they could actually excel in another position. But I thought that was interesting looking at the Hall of Fame aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Le'Veon Bell? He wanted to be paid like a number 1 running back and a number 2 wide receiver.
Great point.
Because that's what he deserved, right? That was another player where you put him at wide receiver and he could burn you, right? So there's definitely those special players, and yeah, those are the ones obviously like CMC, first round pick again this year, without a doubt. Like those are the players you want on your team. And if you bypass a QB, like if you get him, like you're more than happy to take a QB a little less, like a Brock Purdy, as your first QB. Like you're not gonna shy away from that.
Not just one more point about the Hall of Fame thing. What I think what's going to be super interesting too is that there's a lot of guys who are still on the cusp, like a Fred Taylor, a Marshawn Lynch. So even those ones who are kind of coming up right now, they're going to have to fight against like I said, the Fred Taylors, Marshawn Lynches, the guys who we remember when we were growing up. So it's going to be really interesting to see that aspect from the running back position.
And I think Lynch is coming up this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Lynch is coming up. Yeah, for sure.
Wow, Steph was busy today. She asked another question. Can you guys do an episode of Fantasy 101 intro?
Such an interesting question from someone who just asked the various two questions prior to that. Yeah, we've been getting a lot of feedback from first time listeners who are just getting involved into fantasy football that obviously want to listen to us speak and shoot the shit and all that stuff, but at the same time kind of want to have a better understanding as to what's going on, because not everybody necessarily knows about fantasy football. Not everyone necessarily understands what we say zero RB or what we say 2 QB versus 1 QB. So yeah, I think it's a very good question. I think it's something that we'll definitely touch on within the coming summer months when NFL news might be a little bit thin, where we'll just go, we'll dive down, how roster constructions work, basically what is fantasy football, how it applies, how we monetize it in scenarios where we make a little bit of money on this side, whether it's bets or whether it's winning the championship. Why is it so important to us? But no, we're definitely going to jump on the basis and create a foundation for people that might not necessarily know what the things are and why kickers are still important. I think is going to be a major component as well.
And tight ends.
And tight ends.
Oh god. Playing time to
No, but I like that though, because a little
no further comment on
a
it.
little class on fantasy football 101 is going to be it's going to be good for new listeners, even existing ones who think they know what they're doing, but they have no idea what the fuck they're doing. So we're going to be able to give them some lessons.
Should help you with this upcoming season as well, Fab. So
listen,
we'll make sure there's content for you.
I don't know if you realize, Nak, but I'm a 2-time second place finalist. Okay, so I don't need no help. Right, I got this shit down.
But when was the last time that happened?
I can check the Yahoo records, but we're talking about the 2010s now. Okay, Yahoo keeps all the receipts. That's all that matters.
Oh my god.
Okay. We've got three last questions to get through. Maybe we'll do a little rapid fire on these ones. They all came in anonymous, so no name attached to it. But first one here is, why do Nak and Raj always laugh at Fab's takes?
It's a microaggression.
I mean, sometimes it just speaks for itself, right? You guys are also listening, so.
Nak, you want to go?
Daniel
Fab,
Jones.
why don't you answer?
Yeah, no, I'll answer this
Fab.
question. You guys laugh at my takes, and that's fine. You probably laugh at my takes because I do quote unquote flip flop, from, as you guys so eloquently put it. I don't want to say that I flip flop, and I'll tell you why. No, I'm seriously, honestly, I'll tell you why. I look at things from a lot of different perspectives. So sometimes I'm even arguing with myself about why at like 6 I want a wide receiver or I want a quarterback. Obviously, depending on the quarterback, But like if you give me Caleb Williams, I'm going to take Caleb Williams. But like if we're talking about like if we're going through each wide receiver one by one, like even the NFL pundits are still arguing if Marvin Harrison's the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver, and there's Malik Neighbors, and there's Roman. Like so. It's like, oh, I like him, but he's really good too. And this is like, there's a lot of qualities to like for each wide receiver, and depending on the type of quarterback that you have, one might be more beneficial to the team than the other. That's not to say that like Rome Odunze is not a good wide receiver. I'll definitely take him if he was available. If the other two weren't, but you can look at things from different perspectives. So obviously, does
6 weeks ago he was your number 1 guy?
He was, and then I did a deep dive on Malik Neighbors. I was like, shit, this guy like is so explosive, and he cuts on a dime, and he starts and he stops and everything. But then Roma has a contested catch radius that no one can match. So it's like Marvin Harrison Jr. He's like a thoroughbred. So there it is.
You answered the question perfectly.
So yeah, I got a lot of takes, ladies and gentlemen. But you know something?
2 words.
You'll always be entertained.
2 words. 2 words. Irrational. No, it's 3 words.
Wow.
No, it's 4 words.
Wow.
Irrational Daniel Jones love.
No, stop it. Fuck
off. Yeah. I think it's finally. I honestly, I think it's finally out the window. But until he's gone, I don't think it ever will be. But
Roger,
I digress.
You and I and Nick, we went to the Nas and Wu-Tang concert last year. What did I say? I said, Roger, I'm done. That's it. I'm done. That was his last chance. Like, I gave him the first 4 weeks of the season to see how he's going to do. He played like garbage. I'm done. I am fully prepared and fully committed to move on from Daniel Jones. And the fact that he had an out after 2 years of his contract says that the GMs knew more than I did. So that's it. I'm good. I wish him the best. That's all.
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in you. I thought you were gonna say what did we say? I thought you were gonna roll off a Nas or Wu-Tang verse that would have, or a song that would have really described how you felt about Daniel Jones.
Which one was
That's what
that? There's a lot of. Sorry.
Okay, well, moving on. Moving on.
Yeah, I'm okay. It's okay.
Next question here was, who has the most Funkos? For those who don't know what Funkos are, those are the little figurines behind us all. I guess you can't see Fabs right now, but without a doubt, Fab has
Hold on a second.
definitely has the most out of everyone I think I know. Hey, Mr. Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, I got the Goodfellas in. I got two Ray Liotta ones because apparently it looked like Ray Liotta, so I wanted to take one out of the box.
What's your number? What's the number?
I'm at 122.
Wow.
And because I saw the question list before, I had to make sure I double checked. So yes, I'm at 122. Guys, it's not a problem. It's a collection. Like I want to make.
I'm at a.
What is this? Another
I'm
hot
way
take?
Under that. If I had to really check right now quickly, I'm really not sure, but definitely less than 120.
Oh, you have all yours like in the inventory, like on the website. You could quickly check how many you have.
I have 74, so 50 less.
But how do you? So you buy all of them online?
No. You could put them on the app, and it kind of keeps track of them all. So it kind of tells me how many I have. So because you can keep you can
it even
lose
gives you
track very
approximate
quickly.
value, which is nice. It makes me feel less bad about myself.
Oh, okay. I have about like in the 30s or so. I bought a lot of them when I used to go to the pharmacy for the little one. Like when you go to pharmacy for like diaper, they're like, let me check and see. Like I've gotten some Sidney Crosby, some LBJ, some Kevin Durant. So, but I'll never be having as many as you guys. I don't think.
Yeah, that's okay. I know I'm past the point of no return, and it's just getting out of control now. So I'm trying to stop, but we'll see what happens. And final question here, guys. Maybe we'll do a little quick answer. Person asked, a favorite video game for each of you, past or present. I guess I could start it off. One of my favorite games was NHL 98 with Peter Forsberg on the cover. I remember there was that cheat where you could hold your slap shot, get to the board, and you'd always score. So as a kid, when you found that out, it was pretty cool. So I'll never forget playing that game.
Yeah, I think for me, it's GoldenEye from N64, just from like all the memories that it brought back and the super hard intro song and the menu song goes so hard. It's not supposed to go that hard, but it's nice, it's good, and it's just a lot of fun with the quad box and everything. Yeah, definitely that one for sure. Roger, you don't have a favorite game?
NCAA football 2000. NCAA football 2004. Yeah, Carson Palmer on it. I played that so much. And what's great is the NCAA football series is coming back this year. I'm buying a PS5 specifically for that game.
Yeah.
That's because of the nil.
That about wraps it up. Oh, Fab had a little last take there. Go, Fab.
With the nil stuff.
It is because of the nil. It is because of the nil.
The nil.
The nil.
Well, that about wraps it up for this edition of our mailbag. Again, thank you guys all for your questions. Really appreciate that. We're definitely going to do this again, so watch out for those posts about questions. And again, they could be anything you want. As you notice, we just answered a video game and Funko's question, so it could be really anything you want it to be. Draft is on Thursday. We're really excited about that, and we'll be back with the next pod next week, recapping all of the wonderful draft news that came out. Hopefully, there's some nice little trades as well that we can kind of discuss. So, looking forward to that. As always, you can follow us on the social medias: Instagram, the Bush League Huddle. Same on Twitter without the E. On TikTok, the same thing. You can listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon. YouTube. Did I say Amazon?
Yeah.
Really
Really?
everywhere. The link is in our Instagram bio, so we're going to post that soon. The link will be up. So again, thank you guys for all the questions, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace out.
Go Leafs go.
No.
Ugh.